A man in his 60s had spent 5 hours with his son's wife inside the prison. I was a prisoner sentenced to death in an Iranian prison, famous for holding the most dangerous criminals, where only those with a death sentence could enter. Night fell, and a profound silence prevailed, interrupted only by the guard's whistle from time to time. All the prisoners were deep in sleep, except for me. Sleep had abandoned me long ago, leaving me in a state of constant insomnia. Perhaps the idea of the impending execution deprived me of rest, although my sentence was 5 years in prison followed by execution. I would sleep only a few hours at a time, then feel fully rested. While I was immersed in my thoughts, I heard an external noise, indicating the arrival of a new prisoner, as I recognized the familiar sound of the police chief's footsteps, who dragged his shoe, causing a distinctive knocking on the ground. I had already spent 4 years in prison, and only 1 year remained before my execution. Whenever a dangerous criminal was brought in, the police chief would accompany him personally, so I was certain that this new prisoner must be extremely dangerous and deserving of the death penalty. I glanced at my spacious cell and saw 4 sleeping companions. After a few moments, I heard the sound of chains dragging on the ground. Then the man stood in front of our cell with the guard, who opened the door and pushed him inside. The place was lit by a faint yellow lamp that barely emitted any light. The man fell directly beside me, and I heard him crying non-stop after the guard left. Before departing, the guard said to his colleague, "Do not neglect this cursed one. Special orders have been issued about him from higher authorities, and his sentence will be read tomorrow. It will be nothing less than execution, as he committed a crime unprecedented in history, one not committed by any father or any other human being." I was astonished by the officer's words, for I did not know what crime could make it so unique. The man sat in the corner of the cell and pretended to sleep, despite being fully awake. After ensuring the guard had left, I sat up and looked at him. He tried to turn his face away. I realized he was older than me by about 10 or 15 years. I said to him, "Uncle, if death frightens you this much, why did you commit the act that brought you here?" The prison was in Iran, and most prisoners were Iranian, while I was the only one from Pakistan. He wiped his tears and said, "I do not fear death, but it pains me that I committed a murder no one has ever done before." I asked him in astonishment, "Which soul did you kill?" His answer was shocking, as he told me he had killed his only son, which made me lose my composure, and that was just the beginning of the astonishment. His trial was scheduled the next day, and he knew the verdict would certainly be execution, as there was no other punishment for his crime. By coincidence, I was also summoned to the court to sign some papers, so I attended the session. The man entered the hall before me, stood on the defense platform, while I stood at the door with the police officers. The victim's family lawyer stepped forward and asked him questions, but he remained silent. The judge asked him, "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" He confessed to his crime without any defense, so the court sentenced him to death. Then the judge asked about his last wish, and he mentioned a request that stunned everyone: spending a night with his son's wife. The hall erupted in anger, and the attendees began to curse him, describing him with the ugliest words. The judge and lawyer were stunned, and the judge said, "Are you mad? What kind of wish is this?" The man replied calmly, "This is my last wish, and I hope it is granted." Silence fell. Then the judge said, "We will first ask your son's wife if she agrees." The son's wife was present in the hall by coincidence, wrapped in a black abaya that covered her body and face, revealing only her pale hands and wide eyes. I knew immediately that she was a very beautiful woman. She walked with steady steps toward the platform, remained silent for a moment, then raised her gaze to her father-in-law who had killed her husband. The accused was a man in his 60s or 65, and everyone was stunned by his crime of killing his own son with his own hands. Many had come to the court out of curiosity, blaming him and wondering about his motives. And when he announced his wish to meet his son's wife, a deep astonishment descended upon them. I noticed a strange glint in his eyes when they met hers, like a silent threat saying, "Agree, or you don't know what might happen." Then she lowered her veil and turned to the judge, saying in a hesitant voice, "I agree to spend the night with him." The judge froze, as he had expected her refusal, but her sudden agreement shocked everyone. I began to grasp some threads of the story, but the full truth remained obscure. The wish was granted, and an order was issued for the private meeting that night. After the session, I signed my papers, and we left the court in one car. The man did not utter a word throughout the journey, but his tears never left his eyes, and he kept wiping them while muttering something incomprehensible. My heart filled with anger toward him, increasing my contempt for him. How could a father kill his son in cold blood, then request a forbidden meeting with his wife? His motives remained mysterious. We arrived at the prison and were returned to a separate cell, away from the others who had years left before execution, while I had 1 year and the old man had only 8 days. I sat in a corner, breathing deeply, while he sat crying in another corner. I grew annoyed by his moaning, so I said to him, "Uncle, what makes you cry? Is it the approaching execution or killing your son?" He looked at me seriously. His old eyes carried an undeniable dignity, and said, "By God, killing the young man does not pain me, but it saddens me that my days are nearing their end without another chance to worship my Lord." His words stunned me. What kind of man kills his son, then speaks of worship? He decided on the meeting in a room inside the prison itself, fearing his escape, and the room was close to my cell, used for officers or the corporal. The guard led the old man to it, and he was flying with joy, as if he had forgotten his feet. The corporal stood guarding the door, so the accused looked at him sharply and said, "There is no way to escape, so stay away from the door. I do not like spying." The corporal retreated and stood next to me, while the guard sat near me talking to me, and an atmosphere of mystery prevailed. At that moment, I remembered my own story. I was from Pakistan. I have elderly parents and twin daughters. I married young. My father advised me to travel for work, so I came to Iran, but the agent deceived me with small jobs that barely sufficed for food. I escaped with 2 companions, searched for decent work in vain, so we were forced into theft gradually, until breaking into homes armed to seize money and jewelry. We sent the money to Pakistan, but one day we broke into a prominent man's house and security cameras caught us. My companions escaped, but I was captured. Due to years of theft, I was sentenced to death with a 5-year grace period to repay the money sent home. For 4 years, I have been behind bars. I don't know if my parents are still alive or what has become of my wife and daughters. I have surrendered everything to God, praying that He shows mercy on what happened to me and provides my wife with halal sustenance to feed our young children. I came here seeking a livelihood, but now I hold my breath expecting death. There was no one to intercede for me or post bail, and this is not Pakistan where bribes open doors. It seems death is my destiny. While I was immersed in my memories, the door opened after 2.5 hours. The man emerged with a flushed face, panting heavily as if something terrible had happened, his chest rising and falling. The girl followed him, adjusting her abaya, her face showing signs of distress and panic, revealing how frightened she was. I don't know what that old man did to her inside, but I saw her hiding something in her abaya as she hurried away. I watched her until she disappeared from sight. The guard returned the man to the cell, and he sat there smiling with a strange joy in his eyes. This man, who had cried non-stop for the past 48 hours, now seemed relieved and turned to worship with a calm face. My curiosity grew, and I thought to myself, what kind of father kills his son in cold blood? And it was his son's wife who sentenced him to death, but she just came to visit him. The wife itself, I couldn't hold back, so I turned to him